Miro Polo, Sweep Out, the Broom Boom Countdown, as Bufik. And this is episode 10, the Alien Stowaway. Ooh, I'm sitting in my personal safety chair staring at the ceiling and expecting the events in the human centrifuge to repeat themselves at any moment. 5G, the right cheek would reach the left molars and I could only just stop my tongue from touching my left earlobe. Oh, gross. Let's not go into the exact description. What I had learned in the human centrifuge was that everything can turn out well if you just try not to talk. So don't talk, don't talk, don't talk. I pressed my mouth and eyes shut.
Countdown starts.
10, 9, 8. Before I report on the dramatic developments, here is a summary of what was happened so far. It is October 2094. My name is Olf and my life has undergone a dramatic change in the last few weeks. I work for the World Institute for Astronautic Space Research and Space Policy. Until a few months ago, I had a secure job there in an open plan office. Admittedly a bit boring, but reasonably well paid and predictable. I was responsible for ordering the fully automatic cleaning equipment that is used to equip spaceships. Fully automatic cleaning machines, these are many individual components that are controlled by a computer and ultimately carry out all cleaning, washing and dishwashing tasks in a spaceship during a space expedition. Predictable job? Well, at least that's what I thought. Today I know a job couldn't really be more unpredictable because in the meantime I'm a cleaner. Sleep out! But no longer in an open plan office, but in an environment that is quite hostile to me. It happened like this. The fully automatic cleaning machines fell victim to a rationalization measure at the Institute and were to be replaced by cheaper cleaning equipment. Brooms, scrubbers, vacuum cleaners, scouring pads, dustpans and accessories such as cleaning fluids and scouring agents. Astronauts were now supposed to clean their spaceships themselves, and that was supposed to save a lot of money. But astronauts didn't want that, and represented by their union and under threat of massive industrial action, they managed to avoid having to clean after all. This damaged the public image of the astronauts, but also forced the Space Institute to find a way out of this dilemma. And after a few incidents and accidents, I became that way out and the cleaner on the next space expedition. Sleep out! It wasn't long before the topic made headlines around the world. The press accused the astronauts of being elitist and out of touch with reality. Me, the media had set up as an opponent. I was supposed to show the astronauts that you can keep a spaceship clean with cheaper cleaning equipment. Little by little it made me a hero in the public eye, a fighter against arrogance and elitism. For the astronauts, however, I was a strikebreaker and a traitor. It's just a shame that I have to leave the world in which I am a hero with a selection of 30 astronauts. Sleep out! By the way, I got to know them all in the last episode. That too ended up in a media spectacle in which all 30 of them didn't come off particularly well, which didn't improve my future prospects. Sleep out! And here we start with the new episode. The episode 10, the Alien Stowaway. Spaceships are pretty big and complex machines and also a living space for several months. You have to get used to them, and that was ensured by a 1-week familiarization phase before launch. Familiarization week. That meant that the spaceship was already completely closed and supplies were completely autonomous. Everything went as if the crew and the ship were already in space. This was day 6 of the familiarization week, the day of the final pre-flight check. The actual launch was planned for the next day. The pre-flight check included the final check of the technical condition of the spaceship, a check tour, and a launch simulation, the launch check. The 2 chief engineers and their 5 engineers were responsible for checking the technology. They had already been in the machine and server level of our spaceship all day. The inspection tour was led by Executive Chief John Jones, to whom each person responsible for a department in the spaceship handed over his department ready for launch. The chefs de cuisine handed over the kitchen, canteen, and storage rooms. The doctors the ambulance area, and the scientific director the onboard laboratories. Offices and living spaces were handed over by their respective users. It was particularly important to ensure that everything that was not installed could be locked in place. A special magnet system was capable for doing this. In order for this to be effective, however, all furniture had to be a specific place intended for it. This applied to dishes as well as my cleaning equipment. The final launch simulation was led by Commander Harris with pilots, co-pilots and navigators. For this, all crew members had to gather in the command center and sit in their personal safety chairs, where they were also locked, i.e. held in place. Then, all the points specified in the launch protocol were checked. There were several hundred of them, but the onboard computer was very fast. This should really only take a few minutes. I made myself comfortable in my safety chair. Finally, some relaxation. Today I had already completed an initial cleaning of all accessible areas of the spaceship. Senior Dr. Lou Morgan had drawn up a cleaning plan and made sure that it was almost impossible to complete. I was also responsible for washing the cooking and eating utensils in the kitchen and canteen, and also for looking after the plants in the spaceship. There were plants in many public areas that were both decorative and part of a scientific program. The scientist Rena Rudkova was responsible for the scientific work and had announced harsh consequences if anything happened to the plants. But at least she was the only one in the crew with whom I worked together on a common goal. Basically, the crew and I had different goals. I had to prove that my cleaning equipment worked, that cleaning with a broom, scrubber and vacuum cleaner was effective. The crew wanted to prove exactly the opposite, to prevent astronauts from having to clean themselves on future space expeditions.
Sleep out!
The spaceship had 3 floors, which was a lot of work for someone who had to meet the hygiene requirements of a senior doctor with a broom, scrubber and cleaning water. The middle floor of the spaceship contained the living area, all common rooms, canteen, laboratories, fitness center, clinic, and part of the offices of the chiefs and seniors, and my office. Office is good. It was at most a chamber, a broom closet. All my cleaning utensils were stored here. The lower floor contained a galley and the storage rooms. The ship propulsion systems took up most of this floor. It also contained the entry and the exit lock and the storage area for all the large equipment and materials that we would need on Gliese 581C. This included helicopters, vehicles, jetpacks, and a mini submarine. The command center and the offices of the chiefs and directors, as well as Commander Harris' office, were on the upper floor. Lulu Harris and Executive Chief John Jones also had their living quarters here. When I had finished everything what was on the agenda for today, I absolutely had to look out of one of the spaceship windows again to take a look at the Earth. From tomorrow onwards, a completely different, unfamiliar view would be presented here. I was already now fighting homesickness. Even for the view on the spaceport was pretty barren. Such a launch site looked as if someone had tried to build a forest using a metal construction kit. 4 metal supports stood close together, in the middle of which a supply lift led upwards, and on the tips of which, in the form of a huge disc, our ship rested. The lift had long since been shut down, everything was loaded and locked, and I was even homesick for the open plan office and my boss Potter. The days after the big media show with the crew had been turbulent again. The interview requests had multiplied again, and I had been the surprise guest in a Saturday night evening show. The day of moving into the spaceship had turned into a public festival. There had not been such interest in a spaceflight since the time of the first people of Moon and Mars. The crew and I were driven to the launch site in open vehicles. The streets were lined with thousands of people, and the ceremony was broadcast live on TV around the world. And I was still the center of attention. Even the Institute's big media show had not changed that. I gave interviews and was surrounded by photographers. The rest of the crew stood to one side. That had of course changed when the spaceship's entry was finally closed. All of a sudden I had become quiet around me, and the crew treated me like the new kid in the class. You were never a new kid and don't know what it's like. Well, excessive reserve, nobody trusts him, and his insecurity is used for pranks. Oh well. Sleep out! Back to the command center. The safety chair was comfortable. The last crew members gathered. The command center was a large round room, the front of which was dominated by a control panel several meters wide. This is where the pilots and navigators on duty sat in front of the monitors. A little further away there was a smaller panel for the commander and executive chief. The safety chairs for everyone who didn't normally have a fixed place in the command center were arranged in a large semicircle in the rear area. Everyone had a view of a huge screen on which the ship's parameters, interior and exterior views, and a view of the mission control center on Earth could be displayed. The launch simulation began. The pilots had started a check protocol. Hundreds of pieces of information about parameters appeared on the screen. It was all rather confusing for me, but the pilots and Commander Harris obviously had everything under control. Everything seemed to be going normally. All crew present, lock seats. Leah Taylor and Burn Smith, the two pilots, made brief entries on the keyboard in front of them, and I felt myself being pushed lightly into the upholstery of the chair. The screen showed the current status of the checks. The pilots and Commander Harris confirmed each individual check with an OK. I couldn't make sense of the terms I heard, but I found it exciting. A little while later, however, the tension reached a completely unexpected climax. Sleep out! It began with the onboard computer repeating a certain check several times, which already amazed the expert around me. The same line of text appeared on the screen dozens of times. Check by hand, commanded Commander Harris. Leah Taylor and Burn Smith worked their keyboards with very serious expressions. Even to me as a layperson, it became clear something is not right here. Result? Asked Commander Harris. Neither of them answered, but both stared at the information on the screen in disbelief. Burn Smith started typing again. His fingers flew over the keyboard at lightning speed. The results seemed to remain the same. That can't be, stammered Leah Taylor. The computer won't approve the fauna check. At that moment, the onboard computer triggered an alarm. I didn't understand, so I stayed relatively quiet. But I was the only one. Everyone else looked at each other, confused and incredulous. How can that be? Asked Lulu Harris. A computer error? Out of the question, said Leah Taylor. What exactly was identified? Burn Smith shrugged his shoulders. Nothing specific. The computer reports an unregistered life form on board. I'm still checking again. I listened up. I wouldn't have expected that, even with the best will in the world. One day before the launch, aliens were already being sighted in the spaceship. That was undoubtedly a sensation. Sleep out! The check had been aborted. The automatic seat lock was lifted. We could move freely again. Hey, do we have weapons on board for such cases? I dared to ask. Commander Harris gave me a shut-up look and gave me a task. Together with Scientific Director Robert Janes and biologist Rena Rutkova, I of all people was to search for an unregistered life form. We set off, and Burn Smith tried to get more information from the onboard computer. Oh, the fact that I would have to fight on the front line against alien invaders before takeoff was something I could not have imagined until recently. What will happen when we are a few miles in space? I thought, and followed Rena and Robert. We were connected to each other and to the command center via communicators in our suits. Common Room A, Burn Smith announced, and we made our way there. Rena Rudkova bravely took over the leadership of our group. A noise! We stopped immediately. It was Burn Smith on the communicator with new information. It is a creature from the Annelida tribe, he said. Clitellata class. Hermaphrodite. Herbivore, blind, deaf and mute. And hopefully not armed, I whispered. While I cautiously ventured forward into the most dangerous corners of Common Room A, my two colleagues had settled down on a seating area. Hey! What's going on? I whispered. We have it, the two said, and had to hold back their laughter. Shouldn't we take cover? I asked worriedly. I think it's unarmed, said Rena Rudkova. She pointed off one of the pots of ornamental plants, some of which were scattered around Common Room A. I went closer, carefully. All clear, said Rena Rudkova in the communicator. Register an earthworm as a crew member, then the problem should be solved. We went back up to the command center. We are locked in our safety seats and the launch check began again. This time without further interruption. 24 hours later. 24 hours later, the crew was back in the command center. This time not for the launch simulation. This time for the real launch. 31 crew members and one earthworm on their way into space. The countdown had begun. I gritted my teeth and knew gravity would soon press us into our seats with force 5G. 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ignition and liftoff. Don't speak, don't speak, don't speak, I thought over and over. The spaceship vibrated slightly. We've left the Earth atmosphere. We are on the way, I heard Commander Harris say, and several voices from Mission Control answered. Everything's okay. Have a good trip. I carefully opened one eye, then the other just as carefully. The other crew members seemed to have already gotten up from their safety seats. To be on the safe side, I stroked my face. Everything was in the right place. Really? I thought. That was all? So why the human centrifuge and all the talk about 5G? I could never answer this question. That remained the eternally unsolved secret of the spaceflight 11/31. And what I didn't know at the time, it would be not the only secret surrounding this flight. So that's it for today. I have to take a look out of the window of my living cabin. I'm in space! Crazy! If you want to keep flying with us, be on time for the next episode. Subscribe to the channel and activate the bell. Then you won't miss it. Until then, bye! Hi, it's me, Mirapolo. That was the end of the first season of Sweep Out. But actually, the story is only just beginning. Do you want more seasons? Let me know your honest opinion in the comments. I want to be sure that you'll like it, because a season like this is obviously a lot of work. But I'm having fun. If you are having fun too, then I keep going. So, I'm waiting for your comment. Until then, yours Mirapolo.